Hyggist ég leyfa oss að
Several days ago, the sun simply came to a stop in the sky.
We fool ourselves believing that peace will last.
The gods are dead. This is not the problem. The problem is that everyone knows it. So the question becomes, to whom do you call out in times of need, when the sun stops in the sky, and your homes turn to ash? Your foes return from myth. And your children ask, who will save me? What will you say? I think that you do not call out, but you join your hands together so you are not lost. And you carry your names on your shoulders where all may see. And upon that banner, you write down your deeds so that you cannot forget. And one way or another, you go on.
Alette. Listen, there's nothing you could have possibly...
Dad, stop. Last night, I had a dream. I dreamt we never left home. We never had to run. We never had to kill. Why are we alive when even the gods are dead? I awoke, and I knew why we're still alive. Because we choose to be.
My precious wife, he writes, flee the city. We fight now to death instead of yield in meat-hall streets and markets. Even within the walls you are no longer safe. The giants do not gather to us the way they bend to the governor, but our ranks have grown thick. He believes we are only rabble. And we are no rabble. We fight with courage. As his men fall in the streets, ours grow stronger. True, we have strength, but more importantly, we have skill. you should hear the confidence in their voices. You see, my love, all your worry is misplaced. We go to claim the governor's seat as you read this. When his faint-hearted reign is over, I will meet you. With joy bursting from my chest.
Like a rabid wolf, that one. How did it come to this? We fool ourselves believing that peace will last. My grandfather built all this from a poor fishing village, you know.
Hero, Sunder Slayer, Legend. These are names we're given. Words for moments of courage. Words for a saga. Words which ignore all our pain and loss. Our struggle to keep moving across a breaking world. And words don't keep you safe. Your bow, your guile, the clans under your banner. These are your tools to stay alive, to reach your destination and face whatever comes next. The world is breaking.
Yet our people fight on.
Strangers drawn to a single banner.
And no matter how difficult the decisions,
or how painful they may be,
I give you my word.
my oath, we will survive.
In the Banner Saga, you'll be embarking on a grueling journey that will be every bit as brutal at times as it is beautiful. To help you get through those moments, we're arming you with the aptly named Insane Viking Pack. The Insane Viking Pack includes an exclusive character called Tryggvi. Trigby is very well known in his hometown, where he's mostly avoided due to his raucous nature. Yes, he's a troublemaker and a little unstable. However, there's no denying his weight in combat as a skilled spearman, and you're a wise man to engage his services to fight on your side. His necklace with matching full and half moon symbols is made of pearl, and he believes they align to give him luck. Finally, you'll also get 3 exclusive tracks from the game's original music score by Grammy-nominated composer Austin Wintory. The Banner Saga will take you on an immersive journey where your choices directly affect how your personal story unfolds. Travel is very important to consider when making choices during your epic journey. It comprises of a small but important number of stats: morale, supplies, and population, all of which can greatly affect your experience and all of which impact each other. These stats can easily be tracked in the travel HUD at the top of the screen. Morale is very important in combat and affects bonuses in battle in addition to the outcome of larger scale wars. If you have high morale, your units start battle with extra willpower, and vice versa. High morale will also reduce the number of casualties in a war, which are large-scale battles in which all the warriors in your caravan are needed. If you have low morale, the likelihood of surviving a conflict is greatly reduced. The second aspect of travel to take into consideration is your supplies. Once supplies have run out, your population will start to die and morale will plummet. Sure, you can buy more supplies, but that costs renown, which is the main currency in the game and is probably better spent on other important things, such as ability upgrades, recruiting new warriors, purchase of items, and is also needed for other story-driven decisions. Finally, managing your population is also at the center of your travel strategy. As you cross the vast landscapes, you'll meet and converse with a variety of people along the way, many of which will join your caravan. The size of your caravan impacts how quickly your supplies deplete, but also comes into play in your battle strategies. If you lose valuable warriors because you don't have enough supplies to keep them from dying, you might find yourself outnumbered, directly affecting the difficulty of combat. The more people that join your caravan, the longer your story and your banner grows. How many survive the end of the world will be up to you. At any time during travel, you may need to camp. This will stop the caravan and give you options to arrange your party. Resting will pass a day's worth of time improving morale, but at the cost of supplies. The hero's tent lets you upgrade and rearrange your hero units as well as assign items to them. You can click on them to see their stats, promote them and use renown to add points to their stats, which permanently improves them in combat. At any time, head to the map tent to check your location in the world and use the interactive map to learn about the hundreds of unique locations in the world. The Banner Saga will take you on an immersive journey where your choices directly affect how your personal story unfolds. In this tutorial, we'll be going over the basics of combat, which will cover your strategies and prepare you for the battle and your tactics in the field. Combat in the Banner Saga is split between battle and war. A battle is a small-scale fight where only your party of 6 are affected. A war occurs when your caravan meets a large number of enemies. When this happens, you will be presented with a summary of the pending situation along with several options of how to proceed. Your choices here will affect how many of your side survive the fight, and your choices at this stage will also affect how difficult the combat is. Before you take part in any battle or war, you have to choose which 6 heroes to take with you. You can choose any hero from your entire roster, and you can mix and match any combination of class you might have. Heroes can become injured if they're knocked unconscious in battle, so you'll have to rest them for a number of days before they're full strength again. Before choosing a hero, make sure you are familiar with their stats: armor, strength, willpower, exertion, and break. Armor blocks damage. Your strength minus their armor equals damage. Strength is both damage and health. If it drops to 0, the unit will fall unconscious. Willpower is spent to move further, hit harder, and perform abilities, but does not replenish during combat. Once you've spent all your willpower, you will not be able to use a hero's special ability. Exertion is the amount of willpower you can use on any given action. Break is the amount of direct damage you can naturally do to an enemy's armor. Lastly, make sure that you have promoted or applied extra stat points to any qualifying hero, and equip any passive ability enhancing items that you might have picked up or bought along the way. It's also useful to become familiar with each hero's special active ability and how it works in combination with the other heroes in the party. When used in unison, these can turn the tide of battle in an instant. Once you have assembled your heroes, you are ready to jump into battle. The Banner Saga embraces turn-based tactical combat, which means each unit takes a turn to make their move, similar to a game of chess. The order in which the units will make their move is shown in the bottom left side of your screen in the initiative bar. You can hit Tab at the beginning of a battle to show how the enemy's stats compare to your stats. Armor, strength, and willpower are shown. When it's your turn, you can move, use an ability, attack, or rest. If you're in range and you choose to attack your enemy, you can either attack their strength or break their armor. The weaker their armor, the more susceptible they will be when their strength is directly attacked. Willpower can be used in a battle to boost actions. For example, if you are just out of range to make an attack on an enemy, you can use willpower to move within range. Or you can add willpower to boost an actual attack on either armor or strength. Willpower boosts are a limited resource, however, and are determined by your exertion stats, so use it wisely. This completes your rough guide to combat. More details can be learnt in-game during the early tutorial missions to help you get started on your journey. As you progress and gain experience in combat, you will not only be challenged more, but you will also discover the deeper strategic combat that is at the heart of the Banner Saga.
For the Banner Saga, we set out to make the experience of a story-driven, role-playing game with tactical combat, set in an original world heavily influenced by Viking culture. For the Banner Saga Factions, we've taken the same combat system and opened the doors wide for multiplayer. Welcome to Strand, home to both men and the giants called Varl who inhabit the north. Hire allies and form a warband, because the clans are about to be torn apart by the politics of war, and the victors will be the ones who come together to form the strongest factions. Strand is your view to the world of factions, and a living city that will change over the course of time. First, head to the Weaver's Hut, where you'll craft and customize the banner that represents your clan. Then take what influence you have to the Mead Hall, where your renown will convince capable but inexperienced warriors to join your struggle. Each class fills an important and unique role in combat, so choose wisely. Your new recruits will wait for you in the Proving Grounds, alongside the other units under your command. Form a team of 6 from any combination of characters you've hired, but take care, the marching orders you set here will determine what order they act in combat. When you're ready, head to the Great Hall and join the battles tearing across the beleaguered city, and you'll always be able to find eager and ready opponents online, or spar with your friends in private matches. Combat in the Banner Saga is no casual experience. We put a razor-sharp focus on strategy. Factions is a turn-based game centered around choices, a combination of pure strategy and positioning of chess and the special abilities and stats of modern tactical games. Each character has their own strength and armor stats, and this is the most important thing to understand. Your strength determines how much damage you'll do, but it's also your health. As a character loses strength, they do less damage. Armor blocks this damage. This Axeman has a strength of 10 and hits an archer with an armor of 6. You can see she lost 4 strength, and on her next turn she'll do that much less damage. But try to attack an enemy with high armor, and you'll be chipping away 1 strength at a time. Even worse, if your enemy has higher armor than your strength, you could miss the attack completely. You'll need to lower their armor fast. Every turn presents you with a difficult choice: lower their strength or smash their armor, mitigate their damage early or set them up to take a big hit in the future. Unlike most strategy games, you won't get far by dogpiling the nearest enemy. Even before you start to consider special abilities, you'll balance multiple choices. Who is my best target? Do I go after their strength or armor? And do I use willpower to boost my attacks? Willpower changes the dynamic even further. By using willpower, your characters can hit harder, move further, or use special abilities. But there's a catch. Willpower doesn't replenish over time, so use it wisely. Willpower may let you run the extra few steps you need to incapacitate an archer in the back row, or may tip the scales to finish off that dangerous character you couldn't quite finish off with a normal attack. While this alone gives every character a ton of choices on every round, that's only the tip of the iceberg. Things really start to heat up when the abilities enter the picture. Each class has an inherent passive that requires skill to use. An Axeman who stands next to an ally forms a shield wall, granting armor bonuses to both himself and his ally. Position multiple Axemen together and you start to multiply this effect. In contrast, a Varl warrior hits so hard that he sends damage out to everyone standing next to his target. On top of this, each class has an activated ability, designed specifically to interact with their passive ability and the other classes on your team, to create an almost limitless array of deep and layered strategies. The Warhawk uses Tempest, hitting multiple enemies, in turn causing a chain reaction of destruction in his wake if played smartly. The Sky Striker can secretly trap a tile, causing her arrow to strike anyone who walks through it, ending their turn. We'll be launching with 12 classes and continue to add more regularly as they're created for the single-player release. Decimate your enemies and the battle is over, for now. Fortunately, each kill you make earns you renown whether you win or lose, so don't despair. Even if things are looking grim, go for that one extra kill. A win, however, will move you up the multiplayer ranks and improve the look of your banner for everyone to see. Back in the Proving Grounds, take stock of what you've learned. Should you have done more armor damage? Did your archer run out of willpower just when she needed it most? You decide how best to improve your strategy by upgrading each character individually. Maybe your warrior died too quickly. Spend your hard-earned renown to improve his armor. But you won't be able to max out his stats. Maybe you make an archer with high strength and armor to survive longer, or an archer who can trap tiles every turn. Both of these characters can be used on the same team. Maximize your character's potential and you'll have the option to promote, allowing you to choose an advanced class, upgrade their abilities to new levels, and add additional points to their limit. When finding an opponent online, you'll be matched against someone who has as many points as you to keep the games fair and fun. Building the best team you can and fighting well is up to you, and there's no end to the choices you can make. As work continues on the Banner Saga, new features will be frequently rolled into factions. Equipable items, computer-controlled skirmishes, and 2v2 co-op battles are all on the way. Look for the Banner Saga Factions, free for PC and Mac, on Steam. There's a lot going on in the Banner Saga, and it can be easy to miss important features. In this tutorial, we'll be going over combat initiative, laying out a walk path, mischance, using the combat horn, and tweaking your character's stats, among other things. In combat, there are several ways to find any information you need. The easiest way to see everyone at a glance is by hitting the toggle banner button, or hitting tab on your keyboard. The game also displays your chance to hit if your strength is below your enemy's armor. For each point below, there's an additional 10% chance of missing. Sometimes you'll want to dodge certain tiles when moving. By clicking waypoint and then clicking another tile, you can set a series of points that your character will follow and avoid coals or traps. See where enemies can move by clicking their character. This will also highlight their portrait in the initiative. Click on any portrait to see what that character can do, or click the ability button to see a full description of your ability. Additionally, using an ability will now display an icon to show that it's still active, so you can easily see at a glance whether there are arrows in the air or if your ally is maliced. When one team has only a single unit left, players go into pillage mode, which allows each unit to move in order. This creates new strategies, shortens the end game, and curtails the frustration of losing turns when you're winning. Our newest feature is the horn. For each kill you make, you receive 1 star on the horn, which can be spent later to restore some of your current character's willpower. This also promotes more dynamic combat and lets you make tactical decisions about whether to kill or maim, and whether to spread out your bonuses or save them until the end of the match. In the future, the horn will be expanded to hold different powers, each with a unique function that encourages players to make custom-fitted teams. In the Proving Grounds, there are important things to know about when arranging your team. There's a limit shown when any character is dragged around the screen, so arrange your team with this in mind. If you've reached the limit, your characters will highlight, showing which can be swapped out. Your team power shows the total point value across all your team members. In Versus, you'll be matched against opponents with similar powers. Promoted characters can be customized to have the stats that work best for you. Right-click to remove points, and left-click to add them, but notice that you can't go over your character's maximum. The total number of points your character has available are displayed on the bottom. Promoting will not only increase this total number by 1 each time, but also upgrade the character's ability. Your character can only be upgraded when they've attained the required number of kills. A gold number means you've maxed out your character's rank. Press the lore button to see your character's history. This will also allow you to change their name, appearance, or remove them from your roster. Within each character, you can also click the ability icon to see detailed description of how to play the game. Versus matches will always net you some renown, even if you lose. Choosing to play on expert mode will make each turn 30 seconds instead of 60, but grant extra renown. Friend matches let you play against anyone you know, but do not grant renown. Weekly tournaments bring the fiercest competitors together to battle for renown and glory. Fight now, build a powerful team, and become immortalized in the Hall of Valor. Hello beta players! Lots of new features have been added to the game for our Yuletide release, all of which are playable now. As you can see, Strand is looking a little more festive, and we finally finished adding all the classes for the faction's launch, with a total now of 12 unique characters and another 12 in development for the single-player campaign. In the last survey we sent out, tutorials were the top requested feature. We're currently in progress making a fully featured, step-by-step tutorial that walks the player through the game. In the meantime, we've also added question marks to each page that give helpful explanations on how to play the game. Within each character, you can also click the ability icon to see detailed description of how to play the game. Now in combat, click on any portrait to see what that character can do, or click the ability button to see a full description of your ability. Combat has tons of new and helpful features. We've added a mead house combat map and a beach scene. The beach includes obstacles that greatly change the dynamic of combat. Additionally, using an ability will now display an icon to show that it's still active, so you can easily see at a glance whether there are arrows in the air or if your ally is maliced. Aside from tutorials, the next most common feedback was that the end game became brutal when the last remaining unit will get a turn every round, sweeping across his opponents with reckless abandon to win fights, even though he was greatly outnumbered. To address this imbalance, we've added a new feature. When one team has only a single unit left, players go into pillage mode, which allows each unit to move in order. This creates new strategies, shortens the end game, and curtails the frustration of losing turns when you're winning. Our newest feature is the horn. For each kill you make, you receive 1 star on the horn, which can be spent later to restore some of your current character's willpower. This also promotes more dynamic combat and lets you make tactical decisions about whether to kill or maim, and whether to spread out your bonuses or save them until the end of the match. In the future, the horn will be expanded to hold different powers, each with a unique function that encourages players to make custom-fitted teams. Back in town, we've added a variety of community features, including the Hall of Valor, where players can see their rank on the leaderboards in categories for ratings, win-loss ratios, games played, and win streaks. This allows us to match players based on their ranking to create the most evenly balanced opponent available based on your skill level. Most screens in town now have global chat, including the Versus Match screen, which lets you talk to anyone online while you search for a battle. You can even chat globally during combat. Base classes are now available in the Mead House and include descriptions of how they can be upgraded to give players an overview of the available classes. Recruit the new character, upgrade his stats with renown, and promote him into any of the advanced classes. All of this new content, including finishing classes, tooltips, pillage, and horn functionality, are essential to the single-player game, and are being rigorously balanced as we speak. Come back and give it a try over the Christmas break, and we'll see you again in the new year. Thanks for watching.
Hello and welcome. This is Alec. We're going to take a look at the PAX 2013 demo for the Banner Saga. This is the first time that we've shown actual gameplay, so everything happening here is happening in the game itself. This is a very early part of the game. There's still a bit of tutorializing in terms of combat. When you come in to combat, the first thing you want to do is arrange your characters in deployment. You can also click their portraits to see what their abilities do. So at any time, you can tell what options you have available to you. Anybody who's played Factions should be familiar with it. The combat is straight out of Factions. We were able to make a lot of adjustments and fine-tuning in Factions, and it really benefits here in the single-player game. So in this very first combat, it's kind of a tutorial fight. All we're showing off is, the relation between strength and armor. So at any time you have the option to attack strength or armor, you need to get their armor down first, and then you can go after the strength. At the end here, you could see he was going to do a special ability, and we killed him before he had the chance. And when you go into conversation, we really wanted to have kind of a movie quality look to it. So everything that you read is going to be in this kind of subtitle style. VO is something that we've talked about on many occasions, voiceover. We don't have the budget to do VO. Everything we raised on Kickstarter alone would not be enough to add voice acting to this game with the length and the number of characters that we have. Now, in travel, what we're looking at here is we've come out of the combat, we had a conversation, we're going into travel, and this is like a really early look at travel as a whole throughout the Banner Saga. So this is world travel, in which it's a little abstracted, it's pulled out, and you're seeing very large distances. And you can see at the HUD on the top of the screen, as you travel, time is passing, and as a full day passes, it counts down. That sound that you hear is indicating that a day has passed. So when you come to a location, you go from world travel into close travel. And close travel is going to show you a more, one-to-one scale of your characters. Every time you come to an important landmark or a city, you're going to go into close travel. In this part of the story, they're talking about the enemy that we just faced is something that they haven't seen in a long time. Definitely not this far south. They're usually a more northern enemy. So they're speculating on why it might be here. The mystery of these dredge and why they're coming back is kind of a key component to the entire game. Everything here is a work in progress, so, there may be occasionally a little hitch, or we haven't optimized the full game yet. That's kind of something that usually happens near the end of production. You can see here when there's narrative, we put in italics. There's lots of places we want to explain what's going on with the story. Our friend Ivor here is a Varl, so he's one of the horned giants. It's uncommon for them to live with humans, but this particular Varl is someone we know. You can scroll through the text as fast as is comfortable for you. While you're playing it, you'll have complete control over when the text changes. So here's our first decision, our first major decision that we should all going to want to vote on. Decisions are real in this game. So every time we bring up a decision, what we want to do is give you something that will actually affect what is going on. This isn't a throwaway decision or something that has no effect on the story later. This is important. It's going to change what happens, and it could have a long-term impact every time you see something that gives you a choice. So last time you guys chose, not overwhelmingly, but it was a pretty close vote. You chose to let them fight with you. Like I was saying before, this is going to be a real decision. Basically what you've chosen to do is let some kids join you in fighting these ancient, ferocious enemies that have returned. That's not necessarily the safest choice you can make. So if you had sent them back to the Great Hall, there would probably be less risk. We'll see how that pans out. So, before most battles, what you're going to want to do is assemble your heroes. This will mainly let you rearrange what order they move in. So you can see in the bottom left, it shows the order that they're going to move. At the start of combat, you're going to want to arrange them to, account for the order that they take. Now, one thing worth mentioning is that the characters are not completely balanced with each other. The Varl, the giants here, are going to be more powerful than your humans, and you want to lean on them to help you through difficult combats and take on the more difficult enemies. So sometimes we'll give you little contextual clues about how to use your characters. The Dredge also have special abilities just like your characters, and they employ them in a pretty intelligent way. They'll look at a whole list of options and then pick the most efficient one. Egil here is a raid master. His ability is a little difficult to understand at first, but understanding each character's ability is going to be the biggest difference between playing really well in combat and not doing so well. So Egil's ability lets him absorb damage. It seems like it might be a waste of a turn, because instead of doing damage, he's just standing there absorbing it. But really what it lets you do is kind of set up a forward position. He can move forward, put up his shield wall, and enemies attacking him aren't going to do much damage. At the same time, they're going to waste their turns on this and let you get into a better position. Positioning is really important in the game. Like Ivor just did, he knocked the large dredge back. He could have done probably more damage in other ways, but by putting him behind the smaller dredge, now that large one has to get around and maneuver, and that's going to be difficult for him to do. Rook's a fairly unique character in that he can do both ranged and melee attacks, and his special ability lets him mark a target so that anyone within range of that target gets a free automatic attack. Now we're going to show more of that later, but that becomes a hugely important part of strategy for your team. Now here I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out what to do with her because I don't want to put her in harm's way, and I'm trying to think of the most effective way to use her. Ultimately, I put her in position because I know she's going to end up in range of somebody else, and her passive ability called Puncture will let her do bonus damage if that enemy has lost armor. So what I've done is put her in position so that on her next turn, she doesn't have to move and she'll get that puncture bonus. Positioning is a vital important part of the strategy. Now here, Rook's passive, the Hunter passive, is that he can move through allies. Usually you're blocked from doing that. And that lets him get into better positions without having to spend willpower to move further. Now here we're showing, he did his ability, he got a really good combination of attacks on that large dredge, but it really didn't do that much damage because if you see that guy's armor in blue there, it was pretty high. And you need to get that armor down before you really do some damage. So now that we've got everyone in position, we're able to start knocking down his armor. And you'll see a pretty dramatic difference between Rook's team-up ability last time and what happens this time. At a glance, you can see everybody's stats. to help you plan a strategy. Now this time his armor is much lower. You can see how devastating that is. Meanwhile, the smaller dredge are still wailing away on Ivor, who we rely on to be a high armor character and take hits. Now with Ivor, again, we're looking at positioning. I got two dredge who are catty-corner to each other. I'd really prefer them to be lined up with each other, so by moving, I can influence where I think they're going to go. I just want to point out with the combat here, so many factors to take into account. This is not a particularly easy fight. It could have gone a lot worse. It could have gone really bad. It's not hard to lose at all. If you had sent Alette and Gil back to the Great Hall, they wouldn't be in this fight, so it would have been significantly harder. We don't scale the fights based on your choices, so it's not a false choice where it's actually an easier fight because you sent them back. It's going to be a much harder fight because you sent them back, and that's always something you have to consider. So with battle over, we see what's happening as a result. And keep in mind, again, the decision that you made before can change what happens here. You know, if Let and Gil went back to the Great Hall, this might not have played out the same way. Last time you picked, by a good majority, to shoot the dredge with an arrow that's menacing Alette. Now, it's really important to mention here, we don't always dive deeper into more and more decisions after you've picked what you want, but we really go out of our way to make sure there's no kind of gotcha scenario. You know, one thing that we're really focused on is that you don't always know what's going to happen as the result of your action, but you should always know what your action is going to do. So we've got a fairly long game, there's a lot of characters in the game, and if you make it through the entire game with all your characters intact the first time, that would be very surprising. We basically want you to make decisions based on what you would really do, and then accept the consequences, whether they're good or bad, and keep on moving, like that is part of your story. So think what you want to do here, make a vote, and I can tell you we are definitely going to see a result. Last time we left off, we had to make a decision what to do about the dredge looming over Alette, and it was a very close vote. I had to double count it, but you guys decided to try to distract the dredge. Now, one thing I thought was really interesting was a lot of the people in the comments really kind of got what we're going for. In a multiple choice story, there's always a bit of a struggle between giving your audience enough information to make a choice, but not telling them what the right choice is. And like one of the guys said in the comments, come on guys, the hint's right there in the text, as though second nature. So he was talking about the fact that, you know, we tell you Rook is a good shot and want you to kind of infer that he's going to be able to do this. So what happened instead was we made our shot, we hit the target, the dredge was not impressed, and as a result, Gil had to die. This wasn't the dead man walking scenario by any standard. You could have gotten out of that situation with nobody dying. Fortunately, Alette wasn't the one to take the hit. So this was another example too of us kind of giving you some warning about what was going to happen. If you recall the earlier conversation, Gil says he's not going to let anything happen to her, and he fulfills that promise. So there's lots of stuff like this where, you know, nothing that we say in the game is kind of throwaway. You know, we really try to make it so if you're paying attention, if you're listening to what people are saying and doing, you really can kind of predict better what's going to happen. Even just since the last time that we talked, we've implemented some of the feedback that we got. People didn't like how much movement there was to the camera that would go back and forth between every line. What we decided to do was we put in a system where I can control exactly which lines are pointing at which character. And then if the camera is not pointing at that character, we display their portrait next to their name, so that even in your peripheral vision, you can quickly and easily see who's talking. You don't You know, you don't have to stop reading to go look at the name tag. And we think it works pretty well. And this is all new functionality, just based on the feedback that we've gotten on the first couple parts of the PAX demo. Now, something I'm going to point out here too, compared to how we've done conversations in the past working at BioWare and other places, usually there's the choices that will progress the story, and often those are on the right, and then there's the choices that will fulfill questions that you might have, and those are on the left. And you know when you pick those, it's not going to advance the story, you're not going to miss something. What we decided to do is try to make it more of a fluid system. So anytime you see a bunch of options, if there's something that lets you dig deeper and ask questions, it's not going to prevent you from selecting those previous options. We've just made it so that the way that the branches work, you can always feel safe knowing that no matter what you pick, you're going to be able to get back to previous options and have the full range of things to say, just like you would have in a normal conversation. But this way, I think we were able to make it feel a little more organic. You know, you can ask questions, or you can cut right to the chase if you want, and it doesn't artificially feel like you're doing one or the other. So here we've got another important decision. We've got the dredge closing in. They're starting to surround the town. Obviously they're going to be a big threat. We've already lost Gil. We have to decide, how are we going to deal with this? Are we going to go with Ivor's suggestion to let him run out there and distract the dredge while everybody else tries to escape? That's going to lead to, you can infer a tougher fight. Do you go with the chieftain's suggestion of just letting everybody try to escape in one big push? Or are you really focused on the supply house and making sure they have enough supplies to last for the journey? Now, something I wanted to mention about Gil too, it really isn't just a minor decision here. Losing Gil from your party, having him die, means that you're not going to see any of the other conversations he has. It means he's not going to throw in for certain events in which he might have an idea or he might do something that affects the story. These are just variables that are no longer in the game once you've lost a character, and we try to do this for every character that can join your party. Nobody is just a background combat character. They all have roles and they all affect the story. So when you lose somebody, they're really gone, and it's going to change your playthrough pretty significantly. Now, last time you guys voted pretty dominantly to gather as much food as you can. That seems like an optimal route. If you're going to be traveling a long distance, you're going to need as much supplies as possible. But we also provided an option that had some pros and cons that you had to weigh. If you did what Ivor said, you know, he might know what he's talking about. He's fought dredge before. And sometimes when you try to have your cake and eat it too, you're going to make the game a lot harder on yourself, either by harder fights or things go wrong, like this. And then they don't go wrong in the fact that, oh no, you lost the game, everybody died. But it changes the outcome of what's going to happen. So right now we're probably going to end up with a tougher fight. You notice we don't have Gil in our roster anymore, he died. And the first thing you're going to see on the fight is that the deployment zone is a little unusual. Every time you go into a combat, there's a variety of different deployment zones that can come up. Sometimes they're unique to the combat, sometimes they're chosen randomly. Now, I'm not going to play the full 15 or 20 minute combat here. I'm going to fade to certain key points. One thing I did want to mention was Oddleaf, the chieftain's wife. Her ability as a sky striker is to trap a tile. So when an enemy walks over that tile, the arrow comes down and hits them and stops them in their tracks. She makes, especially with the Dredge, a very good kind of board control character. She's able to put enemies where you want them, stop them from approaching weak allies. Now, if I were paying a little closer attention, I would have used Oddleaf to stop that Dredge one tile further so that all three of those enemies would have been lined up. I'll move ahead a little further here. Ivor can't use his ability, he's out of willpower, so I use the horn. Every time you get a kill on a Dredge, you get a star on your horn, and that's going to give willpower to anyone whose turn it is. So you're incentivized to get kills and build up this pool of kind of wildcard willpower that you can give. Now what I really wanted to show was, this combat is still completely winnable, but I'm going to skip ahead and just pretend that we had lost this battle. You still get the renown for the kills that you make. You don't get a bonus for winning. But what's going to happen is, the story continues even when you lose. So there's very many combats in the game. When you do them and you don't succeed, the story doesn't just end. But the outcome is usually going to be less than optimal. It's going to be almost always a pretty bad outcome. However, we really want the player to continue playing as though this is part of their story and, you know, take the knocks as they come. Alright, that's going to do it for the Banner Saga. That was the end of the PAX demo. There's lots of different ways that could have gone down. The Chieftain didn't have to die, Gil didn't have to die. You notice too at the end there the number of peasants that you have and fighters and supplies. All those numbers change depending on what options you chose. So if we had chosen to go for the food and then won the combat, we would have ended up with a lot more supplies and probably less casualties as well. So every time you play through the game, you're going to have a different experience. The choices that you make in almost every situation are going to dramatically affect the gameplay. We think you're really going to like it. Thanks for watching.